Hi, my name is Gay and I am the lead presenter with imoves. And this is Ryan. He is a PE teacher and PE subject lead in a school right here in Sheffield. So welcome, Ryan. Thanks for coming down today.
Cheers.
No worries. So today we are going to be talking about teaching PE lessons in your school and how we can make these lessons successful for everyone, for the teacher, for the children, everyone. And we're going to look at the PE curriculum. We're going to look at planning PE lessons, delivering PE lessons, preparing PE lessons, and assessing PE lessons. So, Ryan, what's PE like in your school at the moment? How do the teachers feel?
Well, I think traditionally PE is probably one of those subjects that a lot of teachers fear, I think, because whether they don't have a lot of training through university or whether it's just something that they don't feel naturally sort of really confident about, it can make it one of those tricky subjects, can't it? But I have to say the staff at our school have received quite a lot of training and a lot of input over these last few years, which has helped build their confidence so that they can deliver PE lessons that are of a good standard, definitely.
Brilliant, brilliant. So firstly, let's think about the PE curriculum. There are lots of activities that you can include in a PE curriculum, and it gives children a chance to try lots and lots of different things, which we want it to be really varied and really give every child something that they can enjoy. It can include the regular stuff like football, basketball, hockey, netball, all that kind of stuff, but you can also think outside the box a little bit and think like yoga, Pilates, martial arts, cheerleading, all sorts. The list is absolutely endless, and here at imoves we've got lots of that stuff, so you're really in good hands. But what I just want to think about for a second, Ryan, can you help me out here? So are we just thinking about PE lessons when we think about activity in school?
No, I would say actually no. You want to try and build your whole school day not just around its PE lesson. You don't just want to have a standalone PE lesson. You want to actually try and build in physical activity throughout the whole day. I mean, it's proven that children are more focused, they have better behaviour, don't they? And they're emotionally, I think, better equipped to be able to handle all the other elements of the day that gets thrown at them when they are being physically motivated and physically active across big portions of the school day, not just at that PE lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are lots of opportunities throughout the day where you can shoehorn in some extra activities apart from just simply in PE lessons. So we've got things like the daily mile, running outside. We've got things like brain breaks, where the children just get a complete blast of activity just to give their brain a refresh. We've got morning wake-up activities that they can do first thing in the morning when they come in to get them ready for the day. We've also got active lessons, so cross-curricular activities that link to their subjects they're working on during the day. And also, especially now, activities that link with the health and well-being curriculum, so that we're really focusing on the whole child, not just about getting them active or getting them learning. It's not two separate things, it's about enveloping it all around, isn't it?
All together.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we'd love to recommend is that you actually set a target for how much physical activity is done throughout your day. Now, don't forget, the government actually sets a target of having 60 active minutes per day built in, 30 minutes of which needs to come within that school time. So you really want to try and set that target and find ways to build in that physical activity throughout the school day, not just focusing on the PE lesson itself. However, though, we do need to make sure this seminar here right now is actually about PE lessons, isn't it? So we want to focus on that today. So we really want to make sure that everyone can teach lessons with confidence and know exactly what they're going to deliver, as well as all those extra bits that you can build in throughout the school day.
Fab. So on the imoves platform, the units of work in the PE curriculum are fundamental skills, gymnastics, dance, Pilates, invasion games, striking and fielding games, outdoor and adventurous activities, shortened to OAA, we like that better, it's a lot easier to say. We've also got, which we mentioned before, martial arts, boot camp, cheerleading, yoga, absolutely tons of stuff for you to pick up and pop into your timetable. But also thinking about the dance programme is huge, and lots of the topics link to your curriculum in your history, your geography and science.
And if you want to build in some extra competition into your physical activity as well, then when you do your extra lessons after school, or when you do your football clubs, we have got loads and loads of lesson plans available for you to take a look at too, including football, basketball, tag rugby, badminton, my favourite, cricket, hockey, you know, all of the regulars that you would expect, netball, rounders, tennis, even a bit of volleyball as well. Excellent lesson plans to really help sculpt your children into really good competitive play.
And don't forget, all of those, not only the PE curriculum stuff, but also the extracurricular stuff, all have lesson plans and videos for you to really show the children exactly what their technique should be, how the game should run, all that kind of stuff. So it's really easy for you to deliver. So let's have a look at the kinds of activities that children will be doing in each age group.
For 4 to 7 years old, we start by developing their all-round physical literacy skills, such as catching, throwing, running, and building core strength. We recommend that younger children focus on building fundamental physical literacy skills, such as dance, gymnastics, and Pilates as the core of their PE curriculum. Now, for the 7 to 9-year-olds, the transition to sport should begin where the skills become much more advanced, and you can introduce mini-game situations and play. Children will want to play the game, and this model means that they'll have practiced the skills required, and the gameplay becomes much more fun for everyone there, rather than it becoming a potential negative situation. Also, building more complex skills in dance, gymnastics and Pilates is part of that age group. For the 9 to 11-year-olds, we want them to build on the skills that they've already developed and begin to introduce games for understanding by adding in game situations or challenges built within the game itself. And alternatively, play a short mini-game which reduces the waiting times for the children, and it increases the activity time for them and gives everyone a chance to shine. These activities also increase the strength and stamina of each child, especially done through dance, gymnastics and Pilates.
Okay, let's look at an example of a PE curriculum map. And your PE coordinator will have done this already for you and for your school, and they'll have mapped out the units that each teacher needs to teach throughout the year to make it really easy for you. And you don't have to worry about any of this now. You just need to know what you're teaching and when.
Right, let's take a look at the progression of skills. There we are. The progression of skills will show where children are expected to be working at each age group across the PE framework. And it clearly shows what the teacher is expecting the children to be able to achieve by each point.
Yeah.
And it shows them what they're working towards, whether they're achieving or whether they're exceeding those expectations through that progression of skills. And this will really help teachers see how their skills are progressing as the year moves on throughout PE as a subject. And we can also see the skills that they're working on within their specific year group as well. And you can also see if you need to revisit something if you think a lot of the children haven't got it. It's a really useful document to have.
Yeah. In this example, the unit of work is gymnastics, and you can see the skills are divided into 4 categories. Doing, movement skills, which is the physical literacy of agility, balance and coordination, which we now call locomotion, stabilisation and manipulation. The next category is thinking, which includes choreography, tactics, teamwork, all the things like that. The next one is feeling, understanding the benefits of being active, having confidence, self-esteem, and also reviewing yourself and others. And the last one is enjoying, participating and encouraging others to participate. But we'll look again at these skills later in the webinar.
Let's take a look at an example of a learning journey now.
Yeah.
There we are, look. Now, this is great for children to be able to understand where they are along their way of achieving their PE goals. And it's great to see where they're heading as well and what's coming up in the future. And this can be displayed in the classroom, it can be put on the wall in the hall or wherever it is that your children do their PE lessons. It's a really good visual, isn't it, to sort of keep the children on track and remind them of that progress that they're making.
Yeah. So, shall we have a look at planning PE lessons now?
Oh yeah, come on.
Let's do it.
Do you find PE lessons difficult to deliver? Do you feel like you have limited resources to teach engaging, high-quality PE? Or do you just struggle to find the time to plan them, especially the tricky ones, like dance, gymnastics, Pilates, or OAA?
imoves has over 1,000 easily accessible online lessons designed to give you the skills and resources to easily plan and deliver PE lessons to your class with absolute confidence. They include easy step-by-step guides that walk you through exactly what you need to deliver. There's CPD sessions, lesson plans, demonstration videos, and even music files that cater to all primary school ages.
You don't need any specific experience or sporting background. Our multi-award winning resources have been specially developed from some of the country's leading experts.
When you create your imoves account, you will be asked to choose the year group that you're teaching. Don't worry, you can change this whenever you want, or view all our resources in all age ranges together at the same time. imoves Today is the carousel at the top of the page, which features different resources each day for you to try, from short brain breaks like our active blasts to active lessons in maths, literacy, science, humanities or PSHE. Each subject is super easy to navigate, starting with our 5 to 10 minute active blasts, which are themed for each day of the week to do in your classroom around table and chairs. Perfect for refocusing and energising children whenever they need a quick break. Mighty Monday focuses on a strong body and a strong mind. Challenge Tuesday? Well, anything goes. Wellness Wednesday includes fun, nutritional, health and well-being activities. Thinking Thursday links to maths, literacy or science. Funky Friday, we get our groove on ready for the weekend. Need something snappy? Our quick blasts are 2-minute activities you can do at any time, from our Start Your Day dance to calming yoga.
Now, these brilliant imoves lesson plans will actually provide you with a seamless progression of activities for you to follow. And this ensures that you've got loads and loads of activities to help keep the children engaged. There's activities for warm-ups and for cool-downs. We've got activities for the main part of the session where the children will do the majority of the learning. And then they get to practice the activities as well and really refine their skills and work towards those main outcomes of the lesson too. Now use these lesson plans as your guide. Obviously you're teachers, so you can adapt and change them as you need to, but these are a really good foundation for you to move from. Only move on to the next lesson though that's provided when you know that the children have achieved the goals of the lesson that you are working on. And make sure that those skills are really embedded in there. You don't want to skip ahead too quickly. You want to really make sure that they are showing you that they've got what you want them to achieve in that lesson. Remember, only teach the lessons according to the needs of the children or the group as well. Don't give them something that they can't achieve yet.
And also, don't sort of think, oh, I've got to get on to the next lesson because we're coming up to Christmas and I need to finish. You just go with the children, what the children need.
You don't need to rush that. No. You need to make sure those skills are embedded before taking priority over a time span. You need to make sure the skill comes first, definitely.
Perfect. So now we're just going to have a quick look at an example lesson plan. And the learning outcomes, the key questions and the assessment criteria are all colour-coded and linked directly to the progression of skills that we looked at earlier. So it makes it so easy for you to know exactly what's going on and where you are. Now, the colour-coded outcomes are physical literacy skills. really important ones, aren't they, to know those milestones that the children are working towards. Cognitive thinking and creativity, how much do they actually give to that lesson? How much creativity have they got? Wellness and feeling, how is it all working on the inside? And lastly, engagement and enjoyment. Are they really getting in with it, getting along with it, having a great time, or are they standing on the sides and really not enjoying themselves? And that's the 4 sections that every lesson plan is working towards. Okay, let's just take a minute to think about working in groups, because this is a really important life skill that children need to learn, and PE lessons are a brilliant way to introduce and embed this, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. When you work in groups, it actually helps to encourage that confidence, doesn't it, with the children?
Yeah.
And when you are given an activity that means that those children have to find a way to work together, it really helps to build those social skills as well. And now more than ever, we actually need to be able to encourage the children to communicate with each other in a really positive and supportive way done through the lessons. And actually, as well, Gay, it's a really good technique to bring on your really high ability children in PE too, because you tend to find that a lot of individuals that are very capable in PE sometimes actually don't have such well-developed social skills and teamwork skills when they're doing those lessons. So you'll see that in all of the imoves lesson plans there is lots of opportunity for that teamwork and group work built into it, to help encourage children to speak and to interact with each other, but to also challenge those higher ability children as well.
Yeah, and I think because they are good in one area doesn't mean they're good across the board, does it?
Absolutely.
And that's why we've got those 4 different sections of assessment, of questioning, all that kind of stuff, because it has to be across the board learning,
it's a broad
doesn't it?
spectrum for them, isn't it? And you find that some of those children have a particular strength in one area, but actually there are quite a few different areas that they could, the big gaps, and they actually will really benefit from that. And some of them don't see the benefit of it themselves until they actually realise, oh gosh, I'm actually not very good at this. And they go through a whole cycle, don't they, of knowing, of thinking, I'm really good at this, I'm really good at this, I'm really good at this. And actually when you challenge them with something, they can then see that they are improving in a way that they probably didn't realise they could.
Yeah, lovely.
Right, let's take a look at preparing our PE lessons. Now this is a really important one, isn't it? Because I think you'll find a lot of teachers actually have less confidence in actually this area of PE. It's not sometimes the teaching it, it's actually the preparing it and knowing what to put into it. So let's take a closer look at that bit now.
So preparing for our PE lessons, I am going to hand it over to our PE expert right here, because you do this every day, Ryan. What do we need to do to prepare our PE lessons?
Yeah. So my best advice that I can give you is, first of all, prepare your equipment.
Yep.
You need to look at your lesson plan ahead of time, definitely, because looking through your lesson plan will show you all of these things that you'll need. So your lesson plan will show you what equipment you're going to need. You also need to make sure that you've got enough equipment for each of those activities as well. There's no point just getting 1 cone or a handful of cones if you're going to need 16 cones or enough for 1 between 2. So you need to scrutinise your lesson plan for the equipment that's on there. And if it doesn't actually say on your lesson plan what equipment you need, if you're looking at some of your own lesson plans, then I would actually recommend going and working through the lesson in your own mind and sort of reenacting it without the children being there, so you can think, oh, actually, in that game they're going to need X, Y, and Z. It's definitely something that you need to think about. Something else is also the space in which you are actually going to be doing your PE lesson, because whether you're on the field, on the playground, in the hall, or wherever your area is, the last thing you want to be able to do is get all of your children changed, get them down ready for your lesson, and then, someone else is in there, because that happens, doesn't it?
Yes, or it could be that it's all set up for the Christmas concert or something like that, and there's a row of chairs and a stage, and you just simply can't do anything.
So my advice in that case then is always have a plan B in your back pocket, ready to go. Because if you do happen to head down to your expected space and there's someone else there and they're immovable and they won't move, you need to be able to go to that plan B and actually go to your backup plan. Now, some people can actually use the classroom. You can actually, if you really have run out of options, you can still do a PE lesson in the classroom. You've just got to think on your feet a little bit to adapt it. But if you've got that plan B in place, then it's definitely achievable and it's doable. So it's a big part, isn't it, that of preparing yourself in that way. And just make sure that you set a really good example to your children too, because everyone in your class follows your lead. So if you have high expectations in your lesson, if you've got high expectations of behaviour, if you've got high expectations of uniform, of PE kit as well, then you really set the ground rules for that, and the children will absolutely follow your lead. You have to go in showing that you're confident in what you are going to teach. And if you can show that confidence, then the children will follow you for every single word that comes out of your mouth. So that's it. And that only comes through knowing your lesson and knowing your plan and making sure that you really sort of scrutinise everything that's in there before it comes to actually delivering the lesson.
So that all sounds really spot on and really sensible, actually. So thank you for that. Is there anything else that you can add?
Probably only thinking about the uniform, like what I mentioned before as well. You know, with a PE uniform, you want to make sure that the children have got appropriate kit as well. So you want to make sure they have got appropriate footwear for whatever activity it is that you've planned. If it is something that is going to include a lot more high intensity, you don't want the children to be wearing winter boots still and then say they've not got anything to get changed into. So it's always worth having a bit of a spare uniform box as well, a spare PE box that's got your spare PE t-shirts, spare shorts, and a range of plimsolls in different sizes as well. Sometimes that can actually be an absolute godsend. Because the last thing you want is to deliver and plan an awesome lesson and then have a child say that they can't join in because they've not got the right equipment or the right kit. You want to sort of jump all of those potential hurdles that will come your way. Remember, it's absolutely more important for the child to take part in that lesson than it is for them to sit out because they've not got the right stuff. So you need to try and find every possible way that you can to overcome some of those barriers that come. So I think that's probably the main other thing that I'd say there. And apart from, you know, it's absolutely natural for the children to get hot and sweaty in PE lessons. And some children that maybe aren't used to getting hot and sweaty at any other time, maybe those that don't do as much physical activity at home, might say that they feel sick or they feel poorly, and you need to be there ready with that comeback going, hey, it's absolutely normal to feel, you know, hot and sweaty. Sometimes they say they've got a stitch and things, and you go, it's normal. That just shows that your muscles are getting the workout that they need. So don't pander to them. You need to show them that they need to be taking part in that PE lesson, and it's their body getting fitter and ready as well. So they're my top tips, I think.
Fantastic, thank you.
Right, now let's look at delivering our PE lessons.
Oh yes. This is another area where it can go a little bit wrong if we haven't done the sort of the groundwork beforehand, can't it? So I think really important is to explain to the children what you're going to do beforehand. And this can be done with verbal explanations, it can be done with diagrams. The cream of the crop is to do it with video, because then the children can see exactly what they should be doing by somebody who's doing it really well. So they're not watching someone who is modelling, who sort of making a bit of a fluff of it and not sort of getting the right thing. The videos show them absolutely correct technique, where they should be, what they should be doing, and that's the sort of best way of demonstrating.
Yeah, that's what I do in my lessons actually.
Oh, fantastic.
The children get changed, and then whilst they're busy getting changed, they've got a 3-minute deadline to get changed, and whilst they're getting changed, I'm then on the computer sorting out the plan that's actually going to go up on the screen. And so once they're finished getting changed, you've then got that opportunity to explain to them what you're going to achieve in the lesson, what our aims are, how we're going to progress through, and then show any videos at that moment as well of what we want them to achieve later on. And then when you actually get into the lesson, you show the videos again and it acts as a reminder.
It's a recap,
they've already been pre-prepared for it. Yeah.
And the best thing about that, Ryan, is that you are, when you get into the hall or the space, you can be active for more of that time because you've done all the prep work while they were getting changed. So you're not stopping them and saying, everybody sit down, watch this, because that's stopping.
You've done it.
You know,
you can get straight into the action then,
absolutely.
Can't you?
We think that 75% of the lesson should be active for the children, at least 75%. 25%, we know sometimes it has to be, or we know we need to get in a group, or we need to just calm down and settle down and just listen to some instructions or something like that. But most of the lesson should be active. Especially at the start, there seems to be a lot of going in, sit down, listen to this, wait for that, and it's just a total waste of that lovely big space that you've got, isn't it?
And if you can do that bit just after they've got changed, then you've done your job already, haven't you? And that means that as soon as you go into your space, you can crack on with it. I always say it's a good PE lesson if at the end of it the children come out and they've got a sweaty forehead. And it shows they've been active. And that's hitting that minimum of 75%, isn't it? If they're
absolutely.
Doing that? So, Gay, okay, we're delivering our lessons. Is there anything else that's worth mentioning at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really important to know that the overall lesson and the overall learning outcome will be broken down into really small bite-sized chunks. So we're not expected to do everything all at once and not all in one lesson. It will be spread out and it will be little tiny baby steps to get those children to get to that skill that they want at the end. And also there'll always be a primary and secondary learning objective. So it might be that if the primary learning objective for that lesson is, for instance, a throwing and catching objective, but what you're noticing is that the children are really arguing about who's doing what and they can't work as a team very well, then maybe you need to flip that objective and just go, right, we're just going to work on that teamwork and communication first before we can actually get to grips with the throwing and catching, because again, it's what we said earlier, you have to teach what the children need at that time.
And a good teacher will always react to those situations, won't they? And that's something that we're always told as well by Ofsted, is that if you can see that you actually need to change your lesson so that the children can actually achieve and learn, then you don't just keep going down the path that shows it's not working. You have to be able to adapt as you go. So maybe switching to that secondary objective can then actually refocus the children to achieve what you want to set out.
And I think that's the paramount importance, isn't it? Is not just blindly following that script and going, well, I can't do anything else. This is what I've been told I've got to do, and that's it. You have to adapt and work with the children in front of you.
And that confidence comes through knowing your lesson as well, doesn't it? And knowing your plan. So have confidence in yourself and in what you're delivering, because that will see you through.
Absolutely. Okay, so Ryan, I'm just thinking, I'm going to ask you this. If I'm in a big hall or a big space, or even outside in a big outdoor space, how am I going to get the children's attention if I need to stop them, or I need them to come to me, or whatever? How am I going to do it?
What I would recommend is, you know, when I mentioned about having that moment where you're giving your instructions and you're saying things ahead of time in the classroom before you go outside into that area or down to that area. That would be one of the moments where I would set my expectations out with the children, and I would say to them, right folks, when we are outside or when we're in the hall, if I do a countdown from 3, 2, 1, once I get to 1, I expect everyone to stop what they're doing, don't bounce any balls or don't swing any equipment or anything, stop, turn and look to me. Then I'll do maybe a little practice in the classroom as well, so that they can have experience of it. You might also want to use a whistle or some other kind of command that you shout out. But that's the first thing that I would do, is I would set in place really early on in the lesson the expectation that when I do this, they need to respond in this way. And then as you actually progress with the lesson, you then do it as a reminder, and you say, don't forget what we said in the classroom, blah, blah, blah. Something else that I would also recommend is that when you are out on the playground or the field or even in the hall, if your children are spread out over quite a large area, sometimes your voice just won't travel. And you put actually a lot of strain on your voice if you are trying to get your instructions heard by everybody.
Just by shouting.
Just by shouting, yeah. And you know, the children that are close to you will hear, but the ones that are far away will definitely be on the periphery of drifting off because they just can't hear, especially if you're outside, there's a lot of traffic noise or wind or whatever. So what I would recommend is actually you do your instruction of getting all of their attention and then you bring them closer. So you want to get all of the children close up to you, whether it's in an arch or whether it's, you know, but near to you so that you can then give your instructions clearly without having to raise your voice and shout and damage your own vocal cords. You can give your instructions. You can even demo if you need to up close so that everyone can see and you're aware as a teacher that everyone's paying attention. And then you send them back to their positions and let them have a go at doing whatever it is that you've spoken about. It definitely works.
Absolutely. And I think the good thing about that is that you're not spending 10 minutes of the lesson shouting that one that's over there, because that's just wasting time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's
and you're
everybody
guaranteed
else.
that that child will then come up to you and say, what is it that I've got to do? And you completely miss that, that out.
And everybody else in that point is then getting fidgety and fussy because they're
to wait.
they're bored. So yes, I think that's a really good way of doing it. Thank you. So when we're delivering our PE lessons, if we think about 4 guiding principles, it will really help you with every single subject in PE that you teach. Now, the 4 guiding principles are really, really easy. It's start simple, small is beautiful, practice makes perfect, and it's got to be fun, fun, fun.
Oh gosh, yeah, definitely needs to be fun.
And that's your principles. So if we just have a little look at them, starting simple, so starting with the really basic skills that the children need for that particular sport or discipline. So start with the basics, start at the beginning. Small is beautiful, so have lots of small groups, small mini games, small things going on, which gives the children time to practice and practice and practice, and gives everybody a chance to shine and reduces waiting times. So it's not all about I'm just standing here waiting for my turn, I'm waiting for the ball, I'm just waiting, I'm in a queue, I'm still waiting, because then they're not getting a chance to practice those skills.
It cuts that inactivity down, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Right down.
Practice makes perfect, which means giving the children lots of opportunities to practice those skills in lots of different ways. We don't just do it once and then move on. We attack it from lots of different angles and in lots of different environments. And the last one, fun, fun, fun. If it isn't fun, the children will not learn, because they will have a wall up like, PE's boring, PE's hard work, I don't like it, and at that point you lost them, haven't you? But if it's fun and enjoyable, they'll have a go at something else and they'll try their best. And I think that those 4 things, if you've got those in place, you're onto a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it much more accessible for the children across primary school, doesn't it? And you want them to come out of those lessons with a big smile on their face. And by following those 4 principles, I think they'll do it.
I do. So now let's have a look at those 4 guiding principles in action. Here's a video clip. It's an imoves Bollywood dance, and it's from our Bollywood dance toolkit. And we've chosen this because Bollywood is always so popular, and teachers are terrified of teaching it. And I'm going to show you now how easy it can be. So let's have a look.
Right, so let's look at those 4 guiding principles within that Bollywood video that we've just seen then. So the first one was start simple. So we started with some really simple Bollywood dance moves, a great way to introduce the subject. Then small is beautiful. So the children worked in lovely small groups that they were able to put the moves into a routine, weren't they? Yeah. That's it. The next one, the third one, practice makes perfect. And they were able to put the moves into a routine, weren't they? Which then enabled them to practice the moves over again. And they could teach then those moves to the other people within their group. So they were able to keep working, keep practicing, give each other feedback on how they were each achieving it, whether they needed to make any little changes to their movements. And then the final one is fun. And well, I challenge anyone to not have fun whilst dancing to Bollywood. It's just brilliant, isn't it? The music is so intoxicating. Absolutely. It's great. And you can see that when the children were working as part of a team as well, they really enjoyed that interaction with each other and the smiles on their faces beaming from ear to ear. Yeah, fantastic.
So if we've got children of varying abilities within our group, how can we differentiate our PE lesson?
So the first thing you need to think about is how are you going to differentiate it, because what we tend to think about is how can we make the lesson more challenging. But we also need to think about is how can we make our lesson more accessible as well to children. So there's 2 different areas that we can look at, but in each of these little ideas that I'm going to give you, they can either be flexed up or flexed down depending on whether you need to make it challenging or accessible. So the first one is space. So what about whatever activity it is that you're doing, if you extend that space, so for example, if you're wanting a child to throw a ball to a target that's further away, that is then increasing the challenge. But if you bring that target closer to the child, if they are struggling to be able to hit it at the range that you've set, then you're making that more achievable and they're starting to be able to work on piecing together that hand-eye coordination. And then you slowly, gradually push it back out again as their confidence has regrown. And you can do that with so many different activities by looking at the space that's involved. Another one is time. So how long might you expect the child to do that particular activity? Again, if you're wanting to make it more difficult, this can work in both ways. You can then say, well, let's reduce the time. How many of this particular skill can you do in a shorter time? Which means the children have got to work faster. Let's say if they're passing a ball around their waist, they've then got to try and achieve it much quicker, which means their hand-eye coordination is being called upon a lot more. Again, you might give them more time to do something, which might enable them to have to flex up the different movements or the different kind of skills or positions or directions that they might want to use. And again, that can work for making it more difficult or making it more accessible as well, thinking about the time that you give someone to do an activity. Another one is the actual equipment that the children use. If you know you've got a child that has developing hand and eye coordination, would you give them the smallest ball possible to start off with if they're struggling to catch a large one? No, you wouldn't. You would actually start to give them a larger ball. One of my favourite examples is when we actually teach volleyball. And when I start teaching volleyball, we start seated. So we do seated volleyball first, so it creates a nice level playing field for everyone. I don't go straight into using a volleyball. We actually start with balloons. And balloons then create the time for the children to actually see the movement of the ball, to calculate how much time they've got in between striking it and moving to a new position. Once they've got to grips with the balloon, we then increase it to a inflatable beach ball. And again, that moves a little bit faster than a balloon, but it's a lot closer to the movement of a volleyball. And so we're just gradually building those steps up before you actually move to a volleyball. So there's one example, changing the actual equipment, but you can do so many different things as well. We've got wheelchairs at our school that we use as well just for PE lessons, and that is also to challenge the children to be able to think how they might make their games more accessible for people that might have a disability. So really think about how you might be able to change the equipment to suit the game or to suit the child if they need more support, or which kind of equipment you could actually put into the game that might mix things up a little bit and offer a bit of a bigger challenge to those children that are flying through. You're really gifted children in PE. You really want to think about challenging them. The next one is the actual activity itself. So if a child looks like they are doing it really, really capably, then you might actually want to come up to that individual child as you're rotating around and maybe say to them, right, okay, well, this time I want you to try and do it with one hand. I want you to slightly change that activity, do it with one hand, and let's see how you can get on there. Or maybe you say to them, well, this time I want you to do it whilst balancing on one leg. So they might still be doing the same activity. Let's say it's striking a ball with a racket or with a bat. But by then making them stand on one leg, even though they're doing that same striking activity, you're increasing their level of challenge and you're making them do lots of different multitasks at the same time. So that's another one that I would recommend. And finally, I would say people. The people that you involve, you can change the size of the group that the children are working with. You can reduce the number of children that are working in a group, or you can increase the number of children there. And that obviously will impact how well a child can communicate back and forth and interact with different people too. And that, you know, there's loads of different ideas there, but there's loads and loads of possibilities to flex your lessons up, to make them more challenging, or to actually make them more accessible. Always have that as part of your toolkit. It makes a good PE lesson, it really does.
And following those 5 steps there, that can be applied to any PE topic, can't it? Any PE subject. So it makes it really easy for you to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So now we're going to have a quick look at assessing PE, because again, I think this is quite a problem for a lot of teachers. They just don't know where to start. So on our imoves platform, we have an assessment sheet that you can download, and it's for each individual year group. So you will get your individual year group spreadsheet, and it will have each individual subject on there. So whether it's your gymnastics, whether it's your dance, your Pilates, your games, whatever, each one will have its own individual sheet for you to use. The colour-coded learning objectives and questions on the lesson plan refer directly to your assessment spreadsheet. So whatever part of the lesson you're teaching, you will know exactly which part of the lesson can be transferred onto that assessment. So you know what you're assessing, you know what skills you're assessing, and it makes it really seamless for you to be able to look at that. Each scheme of work for PE will cover all the learning objectives and the assessment criteria for that subject. So you don't need to worry and think, oh, I've got to add something extra in. You will have covered it all if you complete that scheme of work. If you choose dance for your topic, the dance schemes of work all cover those learning objectives. So you may do 2 dance schemes of work in the time you have, in which case you'll have covered those learning objectives twice. So on the imoves platform, we have lots of high quality support for you, not only with lesson plans, videos, music, flashcards, everything you need for your lessons, but also lots of hints, tips and information. And we've really made it so much easier for you to navigate around so that you can find your lessons, use them straight away, and absolutely teach the best lesson with the least planning and prep time. So now you're ready. I think we've about covered everything there, haven't we?
Not bad.
I think they're ready. I think they're ready to create the best PE lessons that have ever been seen. What do you think?
Yeah, and teach with confidence. Don't forget, have faith in yourself. We know that you can deliver absolutely awesome PE lessons, and with the stuff that imoves has provided, it's totally achievable, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we know that the children you teach will be happier, brighter, healthier, and achieve their amazing potential. So thank you, Ryan, for coming along today. It's been a pleasure to see you, and thank you for your great pearls of wisdom that you shared. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye.